Well, hello everyone, I'm John McLeroy. I'm one of your hosts for the Florida Aviation Network, and we are broadcasting live and in the clear from Aerospace Discovery at the Florida Air Museum here at Sun and Fun Complex in Lakeland, Florida during the 44th annual Sun and Fun Fly-In and Exposition. And it is a glorious day. I can hear outside of the Air Museum, the military jets are flying, the F-16s, and the air show's just starting up, and we're getting ready to have a great time. If you're in Central Florida, you need to come on down. And we have met all kinds of great people, friends, family, pilots, non-pilots alike. Everyone is having a great time. It's great weather right now, so make sure you get yourself down here to Lakeland Airport. Now, we just got finished talking with Mackenzie Barber, and she was out front in front of the Air Museum, and she ran into Leenhouts. And Mackenzie, why don't you come on back in here real quick, and we'll get him on the camera, and we'll start to interview him. Now while they're making their way back in from the flight line, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what's been going on today. So Mackenzie's been out there roving around from the Warbird flight line out there. She went out to the air show tower, air traffic control, one of the largest events of private aviation going on right now. They closed down the airspace. They're doing the air show. We've got Lights is coming in here and discussing it, and here they go. They're sitting in front of us now. So, hey, Lights, welcome to the Florida Aviation Network. How did you get here so quick?
Oh my gosh, that was amazing! All of a sudden, I went right from the flight ramp right to here magically. Have you got some kind of teleporter?
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. That's the 2019 model, though. We're unveiling here, like many of the vendors, many of the people who are here displaying their wares, and so, you know, what a great facility to have this. Thanks for coming out.
Well, I really appreciate that. I'm fascinated why you thought that this was a high-tech place. It's about old airplanes, right?
Well, it's both, isn't it? You know, it's, you know, the joke for me is I want to lick my finger and stick it out for airspeed, and sometimes I just spit and count for altitude. That's where I like to go, you know. So there's that version, and then I hear the noise of, that's an afterburner, so at least we've got the military scene and everything in between.
Well, we tell all the people coming out here now, we try to motivate them to recognize that when you come to the Sun and Fun International Flying and Expo, you're really coming to Techno Woodstock, all right? If you want to know what's going to be in your car, on your cell phone, on your computer, in your car, in the next 5 to 10 years, come take a look right now at what we have in all these vendors and exhibitors, because we've got it in aviation.
Isn't it amazing? The avionics, the simulation, the radio technology, the lighting is incredible these times with the LEDs, some of the things that they're creating. And tonight is the light show, so, you know, we're not just walking the walk, we're flying it up there, aren't we?
It's spectacular. The whole sky is filled with airplanes. I just walked by the entrance area just a few moments ago, and they're still pouring in. The lines are as long as they can be, and the people are just anxious to get in here and see all the array of incredibly different airplanes. We just had the reenactors are out there from World War II, all kinds of really unusual and different military hardware, and then of course there's the kids zone, and then in a few minutes we're going to be seeing Tora, reenact Pearl Harbor.
Mackenzie was just out there on the flight line, she said that they were setting that up and getting it ready. So Mackenzie, I know you've been excited to see Lights.
I have.
Well, so ask him a couple questions. I'm curious what you are thinking about when you get around this guy.
Well, first I want to thank you again for that aeroshell ride. That was unbelievable. I loved it. So what interesting things have you been up to this week?
Well, you know, in this position, I get a chance to meet a lot of really cool people. That's the best part of this job. I love airplanes, I love rockets, love cars, but I love people more. And this is the place where all of the best people on the planet come together because they love aviation. So just a few minutes ago, I was fortunate enough to get to meet a really interesting man, a man of character and culture and history. Do you remember the Gemini program?
I've heard of it.
How about the Apollo program?
Heard of that one too.
Of course you have. Gemini 6, Gemini 9, and Apollo 10 were commanded by a gentleman named Tom Stafford. And I've just spent 3 hours with him talking about space, talking about the future, talking about what it was like to go into space in the 60s. He was in space in 1965. That was before your mom was born, okay? So it was a pretty cool time. And I was actually watched him circle the Earth, go to the moon, put the lunar lander almost onto the moon, drive it around, and then come back up to the command module and fly back to the United States, back to the world at Mach 37. 37 times the speed of sound. 37 times the speed of sound. Think about that. So he's just one cool guy I got to meet, and I got to meet an Air Force or an Army general who did the re-enlistments today. How cool was that? And the list. And I got to meet a VP from American Airlines. They want to know how can they get some of what we got. They want to know where are you going to go when you graduate, because they want you in their company. That's the thing we pride ourselves on, is everything we do with the fly-in and throughout the year with our revenue generation is to return that back to the community in the form of educational opportunities. STEM learning for sure, aviation-based, and ultimately scholarships to get over that hurdle, which we all know getting into aviation is not cheap.
Well, Lights, we're seeing that right now, and Mackenzie's a product of that drive to make that happen, and so Sun and Fun and the organization has been working very hard to create those sorts of environments, and tell us a little bit about that, because she's actually been the recipient of one of those awards to get all the way to solo.
Our Sun and Fun scholarship to solo. So what do you think about that, Mackenzie? Are you excited?
I'm very excited. I'm going to be starting that in May, and I cannot wait.
After that flight today, are you ready to take on the controls of a T6 Texan?
I'm not too sure about that, but I mean, I'd love to learn.
Well, we just finished talking to the folks at Stallion 51, and they've got they're ready to go, so we need to visit them. And of course, the T6s and all the World War II military hardware that's out here on the flight line. This is not just for EAA, but for all those groups of people. Everybody's having a good time, all kinds of walks of life.
Well, people ask us, why don't you have a membership base like EAA and our friends with AOPA or NBAA or HAI, all the alphabet soup of the different organizations? And the answer is, we don't need to. You have that. That's your charter. We want EAA to be successful. We want AOPA to be successful. We try to get people to join those organizations. Our job is to light that fire of interest in the world of aviation.
Well, if today's
spark them and get them going.
It's if any indication is showing you how it's going today, it is on fire. We're lit.
We call ourselves the non-denominational church of the high-speed pass.
Can I get an amen?
Amen, brother. Amen. Smoke on. Here they come.
Oh, here it comes. I can hear him now. Absolutely. Cool.
And that's something I really love about Sun and Fun, is that there's something here for everyone.
Yes.
You have your general aviation where people can fly in and enjoy the week. You've got your light sport, and you've got Paradise City with the ultralights. You have your military aircraft. You have things for people who aren't interested in aviation, like the car show. So I really, really love that about Sun and Fun.
It's a festival of life, and it caters to the adventurous soul in everybody. You may not have an old airplane or a general aviation aircraft. You may not have a car or a warbird, but you like to look at them. And this is a place where everybody can come, comfortable, relaxing, and see and touch the world of aviation at every possible level, and feel as if you got your value of the $37 you paid to get in. You're like, that was worth it. I mean, we're not Disney World, nor do we ever want to be, because we got more going on than they do, I think. The fact of the matter is, we want to get them out here to expose them to the aerospace industry, and hopefully one day they'll join into it like the rest of us did.
And so, Lights, I know that's from the folks that are coming in across the fence, but don't forget, half of Sun and Fun is also the volunteer aspect of it. So take us through the sort of the roots of what this was all about in the beginning, and where we are today, and also where that's going in the future.
Well, this started in 1974. A small group of guys got together on the north side, and they planned a little bit of a flying. It was small in 74. Did the first one with Chapter 454 from the EAA, and they had about 300 airplanes come in here on the second one in 1975. And that spawned the effort to grow this into what it is today. And along the way, there was some turbulent air on the flight path. There were some ups and there were downs.
No doubt.
And as it continued to grow and evolve, it got to a point where it was living in the past. They couldn't break free of the paradigm of, we want to have this hometown fly-in event, and expected that to make money. It just wasn't going to happen.
But at the root of that was volunteerism.
Well, that's the only way we can do it. I mean, There's only 26 of us on the paid staff to do this. EAA has over 226, and AOPA is twice that.
It's still grassroots. It always will be.
It will be that, no two ways about it, but we had to reformulate our model of why we did it to motivate the volunteers. You don't want them to think that they're putting in all this hard work and we raise all this money, and at the end of the day, we just paid off a line of credit. We're broke again.
Right.
That didn't make it, and then we couldn't do anything. We couldn't help anybody.
Well, that hasn't happened now. I mean, it's working on its way out. And I remember those days, though. I've been around long enough and had talked to you about this. So, you know, your vision for how this was going to go has worked. So here we are today.
Today, we're sitting here completely debt-free. We turned on the light switch for the air show with $2 million in the bank, creating 64 new private pilots, on track to do 2 per month every year from here on out. 5 $5,000 scholarships for students to go to an aerospace-related degree, helping students go through their A&P. We just had 100 sign up in their freshman year to be airframe and power plant mechanics.
Because not only is there a pilot shortage, it is a mechanic shortage extraordinaire. As many are coming in, we need 2 to replace them, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I was just telling Brigadier or Lieutenant General Stafford, the astronaut, he was talking about the shortage of aviators, and I said, I don't know if you understand this or not, but Boeing has already done the study, and in the next 10 years, all the airlines in the United States will lose 40% of their pilots due to the aging out of 65.
That's right.
40%.
The giant sucking sound you're hearing is the captain being removed from the left seat of everything, all around, and that's a great growth opportunity. Everybody's having a good time. For one thing, they're learning to fly. They're having a great time. They're becoming pilots. They're living the lifestyle of aviation. They're hanging out with guys like you, and Mackenzie. I've really enjoyed being with you this week. Thanks for everything with that, and then of course, John, being with you and your organization, the work that your staff has done. And Mackenzie, this is where the money's coming from. In case you're wondering who's going to be taking you from zero to hero, is Sun and Fun in the organization.
Well,
so,
that
nicely done.
I didn't know what we should call this because we are a capital business when we rent the facility, but we have volunteerism to make it happen. And of course, the fly-in is all volunteers. And I was telling this to somebody in philanthropic development, and they said, well, it's called a social enterprise. So that's a new term for me. I didn't know what that meant, but it's a social enterprise. So we're raising money in a capital format, and we're redonating it back into the educational corridor that we created at the Aerospace Center for Excellence. So we're a philanthropic business with a capital business model.
I remember the vision. I remember you, and you've been the champion voice of that. I love your anachronisms. The things. It's just great. It's been fun to listen to you tell everybody. You've been such a cheerleader. You've carried the flag, led the line, and said, "Follow me," and here we are. So. Let's talk about moving forward now. So we've had that in the past. It wasn't working. As we say in the business, we were right about here in the treetops. And then you got a little bit of a boost. You pulled it out, and now we're climbing out. Where are we climbing to?
Well, we team with the Polk County School Board. And
that's part of what you're involved in.
And the Polk County School Board is led by a lady by the name of Jackie Bird, and Mark Hutak's our deputy. And those 2 individuals share our vision. We've talked to them about the shortfall of STEM education in the county, or in the region for that matter. There's just not a lot of it. So we are starting our capital campaign with their support to put a $4 million addition onto this building. Wow. To add 3 giant STEM classrooms that have removable or flexible walls that'll turn into a 1,000-person auditorium for major presentations, and having an suite of offices, and then reconfiguring it here so that those walls at the far side will actually slide back, and any one of these fine relics that represent the past, but also are the showpieces of how technology evolved, we can use those as STEM learning tools. So they can roll right into the classroom, close the doors, and have a STEM learning experience. And our goal is to have every other day have a busload of 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman, junior, senior, come here.
Young adults,
and get real STEM training.
Yeah.
We have 3 teachers on staff right now. I'd like to grow that to 5. We'll do lesson plans for the other teachers in the county to use aviation as a STEM learning tool. So we're excited that this opportunity has presented itself and potentially will change the whole face of STEM education right here in Lakeland.
You know, we talk about it from 30,000 feet. I'd like to hear from you. How's it show up in your world? What's it like to be you as a student, you know, coming through this? You're about to have a birthday coming up and you're doing real well in your junior year. You're going to be a senior next year. What does it look like to you as a student in this environment? How's that going?
Well, being a student at CFA has definitely been an amazing opportunity, and there's truly nothing like it in the world. I've had so many opportunities with the aviation community, but not just that, just meeting really cool people. Like you said, people are amazing, and it's great to hear their stories and where they came from.
My favorite part.
And you know, we do have, every class we have has some sort of STEM aspect to it, and it's unlike any school I've ever been to before. Even my middle school was a STEM school, but it didn't compare at all to what we have here at CFAA and with the ACE program.
Well, tell me something that has been extraordinarily successful, and tell me something that you're working on, or maybe that isn't going so well. What are you best at, and what do you want to be better at?
As far as school goes,
yeah.
School, I'm probably would have to say I'm best at science. I really enjoy science. I like chemistry, but my favorite would probably have to be biology, which I know isn't too much in the aviation field, but there is some biology in it. You have to, you have to know the pilot as well as you do the plane.
Right.
And my least successful subject would probably have to be math. I used to be really good at it.
Of STEM, okay.
I used to be really good at it, but I've gotten into a lot of those college level maths now, and it takes, I'm still doing well, but it takes a lot more work.
You know, I don't know about you, but until I got into aviation, those things didn't make sense. The context for what they were talking about, and it took being in this environment, and I said, what are they talking? Oh, why didn't they say so? If they had just told me I was going this fast, this high, traveling with this kind of a machine, and the air density and the temperature, so it was weather and geometry and trigonometry, all of a sudden it was the big aha moment. So STEM and aviation go hand in hand.
Well, that's what we tell them, and we actually use this to convince the school board that all of the STEM requirements of learning are embedded in aviation. There's nothing, everything from meteorology to biology to all the very sophisticated sciences necessary for the development of technology, all of it resides in aviation. Even at the most rudimentary level, you take the Wright Flyer down here and you can talk about vectors, for crying out loud.
You bet.
And how you get a vector of lift because you change the pressure gradient between the lower and the upper wing. All those things are right around airplanes all day long. And the other thing that's really neat about aviation is not only does it teach our young men and women, such as Mackenzie here, the sciences, it teaches you life skills, okay?
That's for sure.
When you're in an airplane and you're flying, you've got to have situational awareness, decision-making skills. You've got to have self-discipline. You have to have, you're accountable and responsible for your actions because nobody can fix what you do wrong. You've got to do it right. And ultimately, all those combine into a self-confidence that allows you to tackle anything in life. So when we now say that we're not only teaching STEM, we're teaching good, solid, we're building citizens. We're building pilots and citizens from the ground up right now. And our new byline, we use this regularly, is sky's not the limit. Sky is just the beginning. If you learn these skills and learn to be focused and dedicated and have self-discipline, your life is open. And James Ray said it so well. He said, when you develop self-discipline, you are free to pursue your dreams. Without it, you're just wandering aimlessly, looking for somebody to give you a handout and be that entitled loser.
Boy, I love aviation to cure that in a heartbeat, because unless you've woken up, shown up at the field, had a plan for where you're going to go, made sure you had enough fuel to get there, check the weather for what's going on, you've really got those pieces to play out. You have to manage those pieces, and frankly, it's fun. After a while, you're like, wow, this is a great time. I love it. I think one of the things we were talking about with Doc at Stallion 51 was attitude. I think pilots are some of the happiest people to be around, and I liked what you said about being around people. I mean, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Sure.
I mean, you learn a lot in school, but Mackenzie just said it a minute ago. She likes hearing those stories. And those stories are life stories. And they tell you about the way life could be or shouldn't be. Some are good stories, some are not so good stories, but they help you build your character. I would tell you that if you're a smart person, you don't rely on what you think is right. You observe what is right, what works and what doesn't. And I would say with all dear candor that right now I am a collection of every great leader I ever worked for.
Sure.
I copied everything I saw them do that was good, and I said, if that works for them, it'll work for me. So my character is based on everybody else's character that I was touched by as I grew up in my, in my Navy career and all along the path of life. When you see somebody doing something good, steal their idea and start acting like it.
I like to borrow a statement. You're kind of the sum of the top 5 people that you've been spending the most time with.
Right.
And being around and borrowing and standing on their shoulders and leading the line from that perspective. Not a lot of original idea these days, but linking all that up and being a leader. Being a captain takes all those pieces. You've done that in the military. I know as a leader yourself. I've done that in the airlines as a leader and what I do today, and here on the Florida Aviation Network and presenting these ideas to folks like you. It isn't just a cliche that the sky is not the limit. I love that. The sky is just the beginning. And you want to climb to 35,000 feet and talk about a new horizon and a new perspective of where you can go personally and professionally, then you need to be down here at Lakeland Sun and Fun as the beginning of that journey.
Yep.
Every year.
You know what? One of the things that we do now is our donors, when they give us money or in-kind gifts to help us with the Aerospace Center for Excellence, we give them a coin. And on the coin,
a challenge coin.
A challenge coin. A challenge coin is what they get, and it's called the Speed and Angels coin. You say, well, what's Speed and Angels?
I love it.
Speed is obviously velocity, and Angels is a term for altitude. So when you give, you're helping the Mackenzies of the world reach their highest speed and their greatest altitude in life. You're fueling their flight plan for life. And around the coin, it says educate, inspire, motivate, and accelerate. That's what we do. We give them the tools, accelerate their lives, remove the barriers, and again, the sky is just the beginning for them to take off and go wherever they want in life.
I just want to throw another formula at you. Isn't it speed times work equals power? And in order to be powerful, you've got to be fast, and you've got to do some solid work, and you have to have the ability to show up. And aviation is a great ladder from which to climb. John, tell us about your aviation flying. I mean, I want to know a little bit about you. Do I have to check the NOTAMs and look for your name, or when do we get to fly together? And what happened with that? How did you start all this?
Well, I wasn't as lucky a kid as Mackenzie.
Luck, yeah?
Yeah, well.
You mean flying the Aeroshell T6 this morning?
No, I didn't get any of that.
What kind of luck?
I didn't get any of that.
Right?
No,
neither.
I was mowing yards for 50 cents in Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
And I was looking around, looking at airplanes flying over going, I don't want to be doing this. I want to be doing that. And actually, the one thing that changed my whole perspective on that, because I didn't think there's any way I was ever going to be a pilot, let alone a fighter pilot. And I thought I'd like to, but there's no way. I actually hitchhiked from my grandparents' house in the southern part of Fort Worth into Carswell Air Force Base. This would have been in 1966. I'm 16 years old. My folks didn't want to go to the air show. I did. In those days, you could put a thumb out and you're safe to ride.
Right, it was easy.
So I did about 25 miles of hitchhiking, got myself to this air show, and I'm walking around. I'm looking at airplanes. Well, this is really, really cool. And I walked over to a big, long fighter jet. It was called an F-100 Super Sabre.
Love it.
And there's a guy standing there in a green floppy flight suit, and there was nobody around him. So I just started talking to the guy about what'd you like to fly this? And after a few minutes, he was telling me, well, why don't you do this? And I'm like thinking, well, maybe I can.
A blatant stroke of the obvious.
Yeah, it's just like, well, okay, if this guy thinks I can, maybe I need to start thinking that I can. And at that moment, it all came together, and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Now I got to find a way to get there. but this is what I'm going to do.
I love having that spark of vision. It's as bright as the sun, but you know you're heading that direction. Did you get to fly the F-100?
No, I didn't. No, I got in a little later after that. I was 16. I got into the Navy in 1973 and started flying and flew the T-2 Buckeye and the A-4 Skyhawk, in training, of course.
Oh, I love the Skyhawk.
And I got my very first carrier landings in those airplanes, and then I was fortunate enough, my grades were good, and I got selected to go to the fleet and fly the A-7 Corsair, which is a single seat, single engine, swept wing, jet strike light attack fighter.
High performance.
High performance, great airplane. Didn't have an afterburn, didn't need it.
Didn't need it.
But I flew that thing for about 4,000 hours. And in the middle of all that, because I was a landing signal officer, the guy that stands in the back of the boat, and you train your eyes up in the glide path, and I can tell if you're high or you're low or left or right, and you're on the radio and you're talking to the guy down, when things are going south, you're going a little bit of power, attitude, easy with it, right for lineup, right for line, fly the ball. And that skill allowed me, because I did that job while I was flying as well, they said, you get to fly another airplane. So I said, okay, I want to fly the F-8 Crusader. And they go, no, you can't fly the F-8 Crusader because it's going away. It's a done deal. I said, well, then I'll fly the F-14 Tomcat. And they go, well, you can't fly that because that's just too new. Nobody's trained, nobody's cross-trained in that yet. And I said, well, it's got to be one or the other. And then the captain of the ship, an old guy by the name of Jerry O'Tuttle, said, all right, I'm going to let you fly the Tomcat. Don't let us down, boy. So I got orders to go up to Virginia Beach.
Wow.
And I get up there. Now, remember, I'm in between cruises. So in between cruises in the A-7, and they said, all right, you're going to fly this thing. And I get there and they go, well, you need 4 months. I said, I got 2 weeks. And they go, no, you're not going to get it done. And I said, yeah, I am. So
wow.
I got with a buddy of mine over a cocktail napkin, and we wrote out a syllabus. And I'd start my day at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I'd go till 8 o'clock at night. I did all the classes, all the computer training. And by 2 weeks, I was qualified in the airplane and flying it cross country.
Listen, and landing a Tomcat on the carrier deck, having been in LSO, you know that movie, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
This is no walk in the park, ladies and gentlemen. That's a really big deal. I love that story.
But I got the rest of it. Here's a little bit more, because I went on to fly Hornets after that.
And we're going to wrap it up after that.
All right. I'll make this quick.
We can talk all day, trust me.
All right, this will be fun. So I qualified the airplane, and we get out to sea, and they said, oh, no, you can't fly it off the ship now because I'm going back on cruise. And they go, you got to have 50 hours. And I only had 27 hours in the airplane. And I said, can't you waive that? And they go, no, it's too new to waive. We cannot waive that requirement.
Wow.
So you got to have 23 more hours.
So what are you talking about? I'm an LSO. I waive it off all the time.
Yeah, I waive it off all the time. Exactly. And I said, but you promised me I could fly it off the ship.
Right.
So the ship was due to pull in to Taranto, Italy. And they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fly a Tomcat into Sigonella, Sicily. We're going to put a crew in there, a credit card. You're going to fly your happy ass in there on a cod, and you got 9 days to get 23 hours and be back at the ship when we pull out. And I did. Of course, I had a credit card, a license to steal, a Tomcat, and I was flying around the Mediterranean.
And a cod crew that has just now come off a ship is now overnighting in Italy, thanks to this guy. You talk about TDY from heaven.
Oh, it was great.
Right? Oh, my gosh.
I used to blow down sailboats and rip and rage across all the cruise liners out there at 200.
Rumor has it. Gee whiz.
We had fun. But anyway, I got back, qualified on the ship, and then I'd fly the Tomcat in the day and the A-7 at night. And I did that all the way through Desert Storm. We came back after the war and turned in our A-7s, and I went back. I came a Hornet guy and did that for about 2,000 hours and wrapped it up in 2000.
Dang, Lights, you got a lot of time in those high-performance jets.
About 6,000 hours.
Sure enough. Sure enough. Well, thanks for your service in not only in the military, but also here at the Sun and Fun and all the work that you're doing. You know, Mackenzie, do you have anything else? I mean, hanging out with John's a lot of fun, isn't you?
I don't have anything else. It's been very nice talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you, and thank you again for that Aero Show.
You earned it. I'm just the facilitator.
Right? How about that?
Now, do you know something about Mackenzie?
We just met yesterday, and I have enjoyed immensely.
Well, I highly recommend you don't get in a shooting contest with her. She'll shoot the eyes out of a Tweety bird at 50 yards.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, that's no small skill either. You know, let's get her in a Tomcat or
she'd
the
be
F-18s.
good.
And,
she'd be perfect.
I guess by the time you're ready, it's going to be F-35s and you know, just coming online. And the training's going to be under hood in a virtual AR, you know, like we're seeing out here, some of the future vision stuff. Oh my goodness. The future's very bright for you. The future's very bright for Sun and Fun as we move forward into next year, 2019. Don't forget to show up today, though. It's still just a fabulous day. We've got the rest of the air show going on. We're going to call it a wrap on this. It's been a pleasure to have Lights and Mackenzie. I'm John McLeroy for the Florida Aviation Network. It's been my pleasure to host with you today. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.